Hello, and welcome back to the Readers and Writers Roadshow at the Guardian Hay Festival. We're here with an invited audience of readers to talk to three authors for whom the word fable might have been invented: Paulo Coelho, Joanne Harris and Chris Stewart.
It's my 7th year here actually, so I really enjoyed the festival.
I came here because I've read all three authors and I was quite interested in hearing what they had to say about the books they'd written, to get their perspective on it rather than mine.
I've been reading the Joanne Harris book, yes, and yes, it's very good.
The Devil and Miss Prim, it's about the 5th book I've read by Paulo Coelho, and so I really like the idea of the personal pilgrimage of the central character, which often happens in the other books.
I've been reading Parrot in a Pepper Tree by Chris Stewart, and it's brilliant because I've never read him before.
Paulo Coelho was a revolutionary and rock lyricist in his native Brazil until his 40s. Then the political climate changed and he found himself out of a job and decided to walk the Pilgrim Way in northern Spain. It changed his life. He began writing his deceptively simple stories of how to live one's life, including the much-loved work The Alchemist. His latest book, The Devil and Miss Prim, focuses on the most ancient struggle of all, between good and evil. Paulo Coelho, your books have sold millions of copies and changed the lives of many, many people. Do you decide on a theme first and then add the characters to it, or do the characters speak to you first?
It is a question that I don't think any author has an answer, because somehow you live your life, at least I myself, I try to live my life, and then the book chooses the right moment to be written. So you have to be attentive, because you try to force a situation, you try to force the theme, you try to force to write a book about something that you are thinking about. And nevertheless, when you sit, or at least when I sit in front of my laptop, and I want to write about sex, or I want to write about conflicts, but then the book that it is there is a different book. So you write the first draft, and it is horrible, you know that before, and then to write the second one, and hidden behind the 2 or 3 books that are not the book that want to be written at that moment, there is the real book. So as for The Devil and Miss Prim, I had this idea to write about good and evil. It is a struggle that we have within ourselves, and I was planning to write it, but not at that year that I wrote. But it came out that the book was there and said, I'm here, I want to be manifested myself.
And I think of your stories as parables in a way, that in some bookshops they're in the section of fiction and others they're in self-help or philosophy. And with this book, it's a stranger comes out of the blue and a young barmaid in a village, and she is dissatisfied with her life and she becomes the pivotal character. And through the lives of very ordinary people, you tell the biggest story of all. Your books are enlightenment in a way. Do you learn things yourself every time you write?
Absolutely, yes. I think that writing is an act of self-discovery. So I have this idea of writing a book, but in fact, I'm trying to discover some hidden corner of my soul that I didn't know before. So by writing, and at the end of the book, when I read the book, I said, oh, did I write this book? I remember that I was in England in September when The Devil and Miss Prim was released, and I was in a hotel, and there were no books except mine. So I started reading my own book. So in English, that it is a language that I didn't write it in English. So I started reading, and I think this is very interesting, and I was, caught by the story and etc. And I was very surprised when you read it in a foreign language, for example. You don't realize what did you think when you wrote it.
Yeah. Lady in the front row.
Well, having said that, you weren't really sure when you started writing the book, that the book sort of came to you and you're not aware that you're writing around a theme. It is one of a trilogy, and in each of those books there's a very definite structure in that they're all to do with 7 days that changed the lives of those people. What interested me was whether you'd ever had 7 days that changed your life in the same way.
The idea of the 7 days is that I do believe that everything that happens in your life, every important thing that happens in your life, takes a very short, it doesn't take long. You have to be prepared to that. It may be a tragedy, you may fall in love all of a sudden, and you may lose something that is important to you, or your job or something like this. So I had this idea, I should write about some aspects of life that are going to provoke this reaction. And these aspects are death, as in Veronica decides to die, love, as in By the River Pierre sat down and wept, and tragedy, as in The Devil and Miss Spring. So I had this idea that in a short period of time, we change. If we are brave enough to change. I need to stress that, because sometimes changing is there, but you say, you try to skip, you try to ignore, because you feel very comfortable with your world. So you lose an opportunity. You think that a tragedy is a tragedy, and it is not. It's also a possibility to overcome a lot of things.
There's also a spiritual significance in 7 days, though, isn't there, if you're a Christian and you believe in God? And I noticed that a lot of your books are spiritual. So was there that significance for you as well?
Well, in fact, why did him choose 7 days? No, it's a metaphor.
Yeah, that's right.
So I like this metaphor.
Do you see your writing as books of Orthodox Christian faith? Or
Not
works
at
of
all, not
spiritual-
at all. And I even don't see myself as a spiritual author. I think that the fact that I write about, sometimes I touch spirituality in my books, doesn't mean that I consider myself to be a spiritual writer. I write fiction. For example, if you read a book about war, you don't think that the person who is writing this book is a warrior or is a general, or if you write a book about espionage, he's not a spy or something. So in fact, spirituality has played a very important role in my life, because there was a moment in my life that I thought, all the answers are there. And today I think there are no answers.
Paolo?
No, in fact, somehow, by writing it, I'm not speaking by you, but you express your daily life. Whether you express that in a non-fiction book or in a parable or in a metaphor, but somehow you cannot take something for nothing. So even if I write about a hidden village in the Pyrenees,
you know that village, it's a part of you.
It is a part of my soul, yes. But don't lose your hope, because I made the other way around. First I became a writer, and now I'm living in a small little town surrounded by sheep in the Pyrenees. So everything is possible. No?
Right, so it can go that way too.
Yes.
But that's just what I felt when I left teaching. I felt exactly the same thing as you. And I felt that I might lose what had propelled me to write and the kind of energy that I got from being surrounded by lots of people, and now I too live in the country surrounded by sheep. So the sheep must be somewhere at the heart of it.
Correlation.
There is here. I think advice for writers is be near sheep.
And when someone asked about main character, and I said no, but I'm very grateful to a shepherd boy that it is the main character of The Alchemist, that at least opened the doors for my books. So.
Paolo?
I'm reading now a very interesting book that it is my bedside. No? It is Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Conan Doyle.
Is this for the first time?
No. Second or third time. No, I'm a Conan Doyle friend. So when I arrived in England, the book was there in the bedside. I said, the perfect book.
And do you enjoy it?
I love it. It reminds me of my childhood. And when we read it again, it's very...
That for many people, the idea that Sherlock Holmes, the most English of people, could possibly remind you of your Brazilian childhood, I think will be mind-boggling to many people.
It's a wonderful, wonderful writer.
I'm afraid it's all we've got time for, so it just remains for me to thank everybody in the audience, to thank the guests on the panel, Chris Stewart, Joanne Harris and Paolo Coelho. And if you would like to take part in the Readers and Writers Roadshow, if you go to our website on BBC I, you'll see when we're going to be in a town near you, which authors are coming up. You can email questions in, like the man did for Joanne, and you'll also be able to get tickets to the events if you'd like to come along. But for now, from Hay, good night.
It was very interesting to meet Paolo Coelho in the flesh, as it were, because although the impression that I got of him just from reading the words on the back cover was quite wrong, really. And yet, meeting him, I felt exactly the kind of person he needed to be.
You feel like you have a very personal relationship with an author when you read their book. and so then to see them in real life and to hear them speak is, you know, it's good.
I have not read Chris Stewart or Paolo's book, but listening to them and hearing what was the contents of the book, I certainly will go out and read them now.